Hello, hello, hello everyone. Merry Christmas. Again. Yeah, another year, another Christmas. Yeah, I know. As much as I prefer Halloween, I still like Christmas. I mean, it's the season of eggnog, the season of trying to remind ourselves that we have family members, and of course new family members, and at least in case in point with some people like me. And of course, let's not forget our seasonal holiday treats. Case in point, like this chocolate chip cottage kit. Yeah, it kind of remind me of that Halloween special that I did years ago. You know, the one that I bought at this candy house, and I struggle building it in each segment. Well, does that mean that I'm gonna do it again? Yes and no, because this time I will not let you sit through the whole video watching me suffer through this. No, I'll do it right now. Well, what do you think? Yeah. Well, that was a failure. Okay, I am not one. This one didn't came out well. Well, at least I got some chocolate chip cookies for dessert. So anyway, now after a time trying to make some holiday dessert, I think it is time for me to do things that I am better at, and that is watching and enjoying movies or TV series or any media that is related to Christmas. And like always, imitating the 12 Days of Christmas song, I pick up 12 Christmas specials at random. And I'm here to, of course, to give my honest thoughts, my honest, well, quote-unquote review about why I like or dislike those each of those films. So let's not waste any time. Let's start out our Christmas list with
snow time, winter time, Christmas time. The time of sugar plums, Santa Claus, and at last those lovable children from Peanuts. Enjoy a Charlie Brown Christmas. Here comes Charlie Brown now. Listen.
Thanks for that Christmas card you sent me, Violet. I didn't send you a Christmas card, Charlie Brown. Don't you know sarcasm when you hear it?
Be here as your favorite comic strip comes to life. This year, enjoy a Charlie Brown Christmas.
I knew this Christmas special will show up in one of my segments sooner or later. Charlie Brown Christmas. It feels kind of pointless to talk about it because everybody knows it. But okay, I'll give you some of my memories about Charlie Brown Christmas, in which, like, this is one of those specials that I did watch it constantly when I was a kid. They show it regularly on TV, And I even got myself the kind of like the VHS, a VHS tape with the special. But if you ask me what is my position about the Peanuts comic strips, is that I actually love them. Funnily enough, is that this year, for some reason, I had kind of like decided, I got attracted to it for some reason, and I decided to read all the comic strips and watch some of the cartoon. And it's funny how it kind of still holds up. And mind you that I haven't even seen some of the the recent shows like the Snoopy show or what was it? The one that goes to the Snoopy Goes to the Moon. All these Snoopy TV shows and all these things. And well, but still, I do love. I do have kind of a little bit of a soft spot for the Peanut comics. But anyway, I'm talking about this one in which everybody talks about it. You know, the story of our protagonist Charlie Brown going being mopey because, well, he thinks that Christmas is being overly commercialized, overly, how can I say, it lacks sincerity and everything until Lucy suggests him to become the director of the Christmas play at the school. And well, whenever he tries to direct it, everyone wants to make it kind of like a little bit more bombastic or jazzy, and not. Although he feels like he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't feel kind of like the Christmas spirit and everything. And of course, we got all the iconic things that we got. The iconic dancings, the music, the dialogues, the jokes, and of course the mediocre Christmas tree that Charlie Brown gets, which kind of made me remind me of my efforts on this thing. But anyway, I've been watching this for a long time, and honestly, there's nothing much to say. It's saying that that the special still holds up. But when you watch it a lot of times, honestly, it can tend to get a little bit boring, honestly. And don't get me wrong, it's still great. It's still great. Although there's some technical things that you have to notice, because you can tell that this is one of those projects that it looks really low budget. The animation is not exactly kind of like high caliber. Even the acting of the children, it feels like a high school play, or in this case, a primary school play, and it feels like that. And there's something really special that makes it kind of like a little bit more sincere in it. And so this is one of those in which it does feel kind of like forgivable, even if it's really touching when it's about kind of like the message. Although, like always, I do want to give it kind of like a little bit of some negative in order to not overhype it. Like for example, the first one, like I already mentioned, when you watch it a little bit more, sometimes it kind of, you get a little bit tired of it, and also sometimes a lot of the commercialism is not exactly in your face. But it's mostly kind of like in exposition. But still, you kind of feel it, but all the commercialism it's not exactly bombastic as you might think of. But this is mostly because of the time period that it sets. And honestly, the climax in which we have Linus talking about the meaning of Christmas, honestly is really outdated, and it kind of centers around the birth of Jesus and everything. But when you grow up and find about the real history of Christmas, you feel like, well, that's not exactly the meaning of Christmas, to be honest. So, but they wanted to put it kind of like in the perspective of American children, and honestly, it shows, although it doesn't tell exactly, the real answer of what is the real meaning of Christmas. Although they wanted to show that the real spirit, it lies on the simple things, the sincerity of some few and everything. But honestly, there's not much I have to say, except also one thing, which is very curious. My VHS version of A Charlie Brown Christmas, funnily enough, has one missing scene, and I swear that what I had, was an official VHS Charlie Brown Christmas. And that one was missing the scene in which the kids were throwing snowballs into a can. That was actually weird. But anyway, A Charlie Brown Christmas, well, everybody has seen it at this point.
I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. Ten Below. Friends call me Snow Miser. Whatever I touch turns to snow in my clutch. I'm too much.
He's Mr. White Christmas. He's Mr. Snow. He's Mr. Icicle. He's Mr. Ten Below.
Friends call me Snow Miser. Whatever I touch turns to snow in my clutch.
He's too much.
Like the Charlie Brown Christmas, the Rankin Bass Christmas specials, they cemented themselves to become part of Christmas culture in television or whatever you want to watch it. And this year I decided to go with The Year Without a Santa Claus, which, believe it or not, I haven't seen it up to this year. And guess what? I did like it. I thought that was kind of like a solid Christmas special, considering that Rankin Bass has a little bit of a reputation of being that their style kind of be a little bit too tiresome or too mellow. But maybe it's just me. I mean, last year I did saw the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and I gave it kind of like my pros and my cons. This one, I think I like it a little bit better than the Rudolph one. Well, first off, starting with the story, in which we got Santa Claus who gets sick, and then because of one of the complaints of the doctor saying that nobody's believing in him or something like that, he begins to lose his hope to humanity, let's say. So he becomes depressed and much more sick. So Mrs. Claus, she sends these two elves named Jingle and Jangle alongside one of the reindeers, which is Vixen. She sends them away in order to find kind of like some kind of proof that children or people still believe in Santa Claus. Only to find, of course, getting in the middle of a fight between two weather. I don't know if I could say weather gods or weather fiends or weather sprites, but let's say that one controls the snow, called the Snow Miser, and the other one controls the hot heat, called the Heat Miser, in which they always fight. Also, they get involved, and people. People not believing that they're elves / magical reindeers. Then Vixen gets sick because reindeer can't stand, the hot climates, and of course the reindeer also gets captured by the dog pound and all these things. So of course Santa Claus also has to go to the rescue. That's the basic thing I could talk about the special. So it's pretty much, it's still kind of one of those Rankin Bass specials that you just get there, you enjoy the animation, you enjoy the Christmas songs that they sing, and honestly they're pretty good, I'll say. Of course, let's not forget that there is the infamous song of I'm Mr. Christmas, I'm Mr. Snow, or Mr. Christmas, I'm Mr. Snow. I think that was how the song goes. I'm not exactly a good guy to remember the songs. Funnily enough, every time I hear this song, in my head, I always imagine Schwarzenegger forcing his minions to watch that Christmas special. Yeah, I know, it's kind of like a Batman and Robin thing, but I can't help it. I always remember that scene whenever I hear this song. But I will say that one of the things that this special won me over was actually the song in which Santa Claus sings to this child named Iggy, who this kid kind of became kind of like the viewer surrogate, and I really like where it goes, in which the kid at first didn't believe in Santa Claus, but it's not as kind of like mean-spirited, like they always kind of do in these kind of special examples. I don't believe in Santa Claus. The kid mostly is like that. He just outgrew. He's a nice kid, but he just outgrew the phase until let's say that he gets a little bit of a lesson from Santa Claus and the kid's father, and they have this great song that about the power of believing, about keeping keeping your imagination, and that sometimes you have to. Oh yeah, I do remember that when you believe in something, doesn't necessarily have to be physically materialistic or something that has a kind of like a just kind of like an exact proof. Like for example, believing in Santa Claus is almost like believing in love, because it's something that you don't see doesn't mean that it exists. But it kind of a little bit contradicts, because in this case, Santa Claus it does exist in this case. But either way, the message is still there. What else I can say? I forgot to mention that I was kind of surprised that Santa Claus in this special he is voiced by Mickey Rooney. Jeez, I'm sorry. I just realized that I had a little bit of that. A little bit of the white frosting from this on my chin. Oh, anyway, yeah, Santa Claus is voiced by Mickey Rooney. I don't know much of the actors. Hold on, I got this at least. We got Shirley Booth as Mrs. Claus, which I heard that it was her last role before her retirement. The Snow Miser is voiced by Dick Shawn. Heat Miser is George R.S. Irving. And so on, so on, so on. Also, one thing that I do want to say, at least to not overhype this movie, is that I think that, I do like the intention of the movie in its ending. I think that I think that it could have leave it aside with one element, of course. That one element that they did almost at the end, I will say that maybe they should have sit that thing out. I'm not gonna spoil it for anyone who haven't seen it, but if you could pinpoint it, it would be great to discuss it. But anyway, The Year Without a Santa Claus, it actually, as for right now, it became one of my, probably one of my favorite of Rankin Bass Christmas specials, at least so far. So yeah, it is by far one of the most solid Christmas specials made by Rankin Bass.
Starring in this comedy romance are John Payne and the alluring Maureen O'Hara. The rest of the cast, Gene Lockhart and Natalie Wood, also contribute to Hollywood's great pride in this unusual picture.
this year, it was my first time watching Miracle on 34th Street. Yep. I don't even know why I was skipping it. You know what? Maybe I know why. Because we had on VHS the remake. I never watched it. Still frosting on my face. Well, I never watched it. My brother liked to put it, but there was something off about that movie that kinda just made me skip it. And then, of course, I've been hearing a lot about this movie's reputation, but there was something that kinda kept me off until I finally decided to watch it today. And I can finally see why Miracle on 34th Street is considered a Christmas classic. And I enjoy it to the point of loving it. Man, what was I missing? The story of an old man named Kris Kringle, who he goes around bringing joy to every children he meets. The adults, they find out that he is really likable. And he goes around saying that, well, he's technically Santa Claus. And the way he acts, the way he persuades people, the way he's good with the children, all those things, you kind of begin to believe that, well, he kind of is Santa Claus. Even if there are skeptics. For example, we got as our protagonist this woman named Doris, who she's always having her feet on the ground. She doesn't believe in things that are, well, superstition or something like that, or kind of like Santa Claus or something like that. So much that she even tries to make her daughter become more realistic, to have a more realistic approach on things, saying that, okay, things don't exist or something like that. Almost kind of like me when I become kind of like this cynical asshole who don't believe in the magic and everything. And well, all is fine and dandy especially when Kris Kringle gets the job on Macy's, in which, despite promoting goodwill not only on Macy's but in other places and everything, let's say that the quarrel and the believability if he's Santa Claus or not gets pretty much into test when he gets into a fight with the department's psychologist, who is kind of like this grumpy, egotistical man, who he tricks him into being beaten by Kris Kringle's cane because he does something because of a mean-spirited streak that I'll get to it. And then, of course, because of that, he's been called a lunatic. He's been sent to an asylum, and then, of course, the rest of the movie is with one of his friends, a guy named George. Hold on a second. Fred Gailey. A guy named Fred Gailey, who is Doris' boyfriend, let's say. He decides to become his lawyer and tries to defend him, saying that, yeah, this guy is Santa Claus. And boy, that I was paying attention a lot on this movie, and I was kind of like interested. I was really interested mostly because it kind of woke up some of the lost childhood that I kind of just lost whenever I grew up. Saying that, you know what, I became an adult, I don't believe in Santa Claus much as, children do, because, I'm a little bit kind of like an anthropologist sometimes, that I do like about, looking at the finer points of where the beliefs come from and all these things. Until this movie kind of taught me, saying that, you know what, sometimes I think I have to mellow out because, well, probably there is a Santa Claus, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, the fictitious Santa Claus that you believe. Santa Claus can be, in anyone, especially with this guy named Kris Kringle, who they approach him kind of like in this realistic approach. Not exactly saying that, well, he just have an elf, he just have helpers, or he rides reindeers or anything. He just kind of like this really nice, jolly guy who he really knows how to encompass the spirit of Christmas. He's not corporate savvy like many people do in this movie. And he kind of shows that sometimes you don't need, to become kind of like just a businessman in order to make business. You just have to be kind of like a good guy and just spread joy to everyone. And that kind of makes you believe that yeah, maybe this guy is Santa Claus, or is it or not? The movie kind of gives you kind of like clues, but but sometimes, yeah, it can be a little bit kind of like fictitious, but at least it helps out a little bit for the sake of the movie. And so that actually caught me up. What else there is? I do like the acting. I do like the children, of course. The children acting. What else there is? It kind of makes you raise your eyebrows and kind of like in which the movie tries to give itself kind of like a villain. In this case, this psychologist who brands him as a brands Kris Kringle as a lunatic, and then he gets a grudge. He gets a grudge against him because it is one of those guys who's saying that I have the title, I know what I am and everything. But luckily he gets a comeuppance, and for the sake of the Christmas spirit, it didn't come off like as a kind of like a mean-spirited comeuppance. It kind of he gets what he gets. He gets what he deserves in a pacifist manner. Although many people will also begin to argue that nowadays the ending resolution, with the mail and everything, it comes off a little bit outdated. I want to tend to disagree with this one because honestly, let's think about it. Not everyone gets kind of like mails like that. Not even emails. No one gets kind of like emails like that. And it kind of also gives a little bit credit to the hard workers on the post office. At least for the sake of this movie. So yeah. Now that I think about it, maybe it's a little bit outdated, but it still works. Honestly, I think that it still works because you have to think about it, on the sense of the time period that it was filmed. What else there is? Not much I have to say. I do like the characters, and I did like the message. I like Kris Kringle actually steals the show. What was the name of the actor who plays him? Edmund Gwen. This guy, he was brilliant. I gotta admit, he did a brilliant job playing the old man. But either way, I'm really, really glad that I saw A Miracle on 34th Street, and it was surely a miracle that I decided to stumble upon it. Because, wow, it really saw off some of the coldness on my heart.
$10 million for the microchip, Mr. Beaupre.
We will find it.
Their mission is deadly.
Has to be on a plane. We are going to Chicago.
Their technology is state-of-the-art.
There are 26 miners in the 14 houses we haven't checked.
Their strategy is unheard of.
We're gonna work houses in broad daylight.
It's the suburbs. Nobody's home during the day.
They've got the perfect plan.
That's the house. Tomorrow we hit.
He's got the chicken pox.
What?
And he's home alone.
Nobody's gonna do anything about this. I'll just have to do it myself.
I'll go in the front.
Heads up!
John Hughes, the writer and producer of Home Alone.
See ya.
This Christmas, staying home will become an adventure again. Home Alone 3.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Look, I already talked about Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, and I think I remember recommending you these films. Oh boy. Home Alone 3. I already talked about Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2. So, I thought it felt natural to talk about Home Alone 3, but mostly because I have this memory about this one. The first time I saw Home Alone 3 is when I rented this film on VHS. Well, we rented. We were a family at that time. We rented this film in VHS, and the biggest thing that I remember at that time is not exactly the movie, but, well, a little bit the movie, yeah. But the biggest thing that I remember about this movie is that at that time we ate Little Caesar's pizza. And that's all I have to, that's all one of the happiest memories that I have with this movie. Because I rewatched it this year, and God, that this movie doesn't hold up. It sucks. Oh man. So, for those who doesn't know about this movie, and already seen Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, let it be known that Home Alone 3 is basically the Halloween 3 of Home Alones, because this one it has nothing to do with the other two movies, because we don't have Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister. There's no McAllister in this movie, no Joe Pesci, and no Daniel Stern. It still takes place during Christmas, but it still wants to be, kind of like a new version of those Home Alone movies. It is written by the same guy who wrote Home Alone 1 and 2. Hugh. What was the name again? John Hughes. Yeah, John Hughes. But I watch it, and it doesn't hold up. The movie got worse when I saw it. So, here's the premise. It's about this secret agents, or I think terrorist group, or smugglers. These international smugglers. They hide this kind of like this weapons chip into a toy car, so they can smuggle into an airport, so they could sell it to North Korea. Yeah, there's some Russian spies. Now I remember, Russian spies. But unfortunately, their baggage get mixed into this old woman, who then she gives it to our protagonist, which is this little kid named Alex. These two don't get along. And then, of course, during the whole movie, our little boy Alex, he gets chicken pox. And because of that, the chicken pox, he can't go to school. So every time he has to stay, home alone, because his brothers are going to school, and his father goes on business trips, and the mother, of course, because she has emergency at work, she has to go at work. So no indication that they leave the kid without adult supervision or anything. It is so dumb. And of course, the Russian spies, they break into the several houses in the neighborhood in order to find the car and their chip. And of course, little Alex is the one that witnessed this, and he does the right thing to call the police, but the guys are, of course, they're too clever, they're too, spy savvy, in which they don't leave any tracks or anything, so to the point that they believe that the little kid cried wolf. And of course, like any family-friendly film, it's up to the little 9-year-old kid to do things into his own hands. Home Alone style, with the traps and making this kid kind of like smarter than Russian international spies. Russian spies, I mean, that was to sound redundant. And man, that again, it feels not only outdated, but it feels like I tried to, and trust me, I tried to have some fun with the movie, but the more I think about it, it feels so dumb. I mean, first of all, you kind of question the legitimacy of the parents. For example, like I said, they leave the kid alone without anyone's supervision, and he's just a 9-year-old kid. It doesn't help that whenever the kid tries to be honest and the parents doesn't believe him, they always kind of sound like mean-spirited, and even the brothers, they're obviously kind of like this family-friendly 90s bullies in which they always begin to say like, oh, you're so small, I hate you, and nobody and not even the parents say that, hey, respect your child. Let me tell you, sometimes I get fights with my brothers, but and whatever either of us has kind of an attitude to where the little brother or the older brother, our parents scold us. So yeah. Well, also, and even in the movie sometimes tries touching moments, but the touching moments that they try to do, they are way shallow compared to the other two movies, because they feel unearned. Like, for example, they wanted us to make us feel sorry for the crabby woman that gives that has kind of like this angry relationship with our main protagonist, but they only shared one scene, and then they make us. There's a moment in which when they finally encounter each other again, he wants him to make him feel sorry, but it didn't feel earned. Sorry about that. And then of course it is after pratfall, after pratfall, after pratfall, like the usual Home Alone thing, and a lot of the pratfalls are kind of like really calculated to the point that you have to be kind of like a wizard of calculations and to be a psychic to know that he's gonna step on that point from that point or another. So it's not as effective as it is. And also the movie wanted to become cutesy because it wanted to integrate 3 animals into the movie. There's a dog, there's a mouse, and there's also a parrot. The parrot is, of course, kind of like the biggest sellout of this movie, because the parrot kind of like talk really, really well, like almost like a recording machine. But the biggest thing that I remember about this parrot, even from the first time I saw it, is his quote, "Little or nothing." So yeah, Home Alone 3. That kind of signified the doomsday of the franchise. And well, to give it a little bit of credit to the movie, at least I'll give it credit that they wanted to stray away from the McAllister. I think that they kind of missed the point of what made the other two successful. Although, let's face it, it's kind of like a third movie that wanted to be kind of like a spin-off, and whether Halloween 3 succeeded to become a cult classic, Home Alone 3, it fell and exploded like a Mission Impossible secret message. So skip that one. Oh, even you're asking about Home Alone 4 and 5? No, I'm not gonna go with that. I saw the fourth movie. I'll make it quick. Home Alone 4 sucked. That's it. No more Home Alone films.
We found something else than just plain rocks and dirt.
This mountain is like a giant ice box.
For storing what?
Drill deeper. Prepare the dynamite. You have a grave to rob.
Minkälaiset sudet tekee? Hyvä, joo.
Isä! Vetti on viety!
We have Santa Claus. Selitä sille, että meillä on täällä pukki myytävänä.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. And he doesn't give up. Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale.
Woo, nice. So I decided to have a combo on this one. An international Christmas special and a horror special. Let's talk about Rare Exports. That one, I am telling you that if you like horror movies, this one is kind of like a treat, especially during Christmas time. It is based on a couple of shorts called Rare Exports 2. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was weird, but then I began to see it as it is, and I have better appreciation to this one. Okay, to start off, of course, this is a movie that comes from Finland, and basically it centers around the story that there is this excavation point in Finland in the middle of, the snowy mountains and everything, so Americans are trying to excavate something with this kind of like glasses guy who kind of looked like he could play some kind of Ebenezer Scrooge or something like that. But basically, surrounding this excavation point, we also have these group of reindeer hunters, in which we have our protagonist, which is this little kid named Pietro. And they had the bad luck that they didn't get a good haul of reindeers because most of them were killed. And during that time, because Pietro and one of his friends, they just sneak up to watch the excavation points. Pietro then kind of begins to have kind of like this, this creepy bad vibes involving Santa Claus, saying that Santa Claus will come to punish children by beating them with the stick and everything. Basically, it's kind of like the story of Krampus, but trust me that they didn't they didn't put Krampus into the story. They just make you think that it's about Santa Claus. But the thing is that after that, during Christmas and everything, let's say that strange things begin to happen surrounding him, and Pietro, of course, being paranoid that Santa Claus might come to catch him. Well, let's say that there's something sinister happening between them, and it kind of involved, some Santa Claus dudes running around capturing children and all these things. Honestly, if I want to talk a little bit more about this movie, it's gonna be a little bit hard because the movie kind of begs me to spoil it. mostly because the whole movie is kind of like this big giant setup for the ending, in which the ending is basically where the biggest punchline happens on this joke. It's almost like kind of like the human centipede, in which it's kind of like this giant build-up until you reach the biggest punchline almost at the end, or in this case, kind of like almost at the end. But either way, you're gonna. I really like how the tension is built. You see it through the eyes of this kid who he thinks that he has done bad on sneaking around with his friend to watch an excavation point in which there is something sinister that they're beginning to dig, and well, the kid begins to fear that Santa Claus is gonna catch him and punish him, and of course, so much that the kid even built traps around the chimney and everything. But also there's also you also see the point of view, of course, of the child's father, who, well, it's not exactly kind of like a heartwarming relationship, no hugs and everything. It's kind of a little bit more kind of like grounded, but at the same time kind of like in this environment that is kind of like tough. But it does have kind of like its moment, let's say. Because basically the whole point is basically the story of this kid turning from a little wiener kid to become a little man. That's the biggest basis of the story. As for the horror elements, well, let's say that it's not kind of like super horror or everything, but let's say that the cold, snowy environment doesn't help. And of course, when we get to see the monsters, this is where you find that there is something sinister around it. I'm not gonna go exactly what it is, because honestly this is a movie that you have to see it for yourself. But I will again say that the movie has this big giant punchline of a joke at the end. And you know what? It's kind of hilarious. The punchline of the joke is hilarious. Even the first time that I saw it, I was like, wow, are you kidding me? So at this point, I'm gonna shut up about it. I hope you don't get bothered, because most of the movie is talk in Finnish. Except for the few moments in which we got the Americans talking English. But it is well done. It is really fun. It is this big giant setup of kind of like a big joke. But either way, this is a rare fit. I don't think that this is a rare film as for right now. I think that it is getting little by little, it's getting a little bit of an attention. But Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, is such a rarity that you have to see.
Different. Why can't I have a normal nose like everybody else? There. Now no one can see it. I'll stay like this for my whole life. Achoo!
Hello, young buck.
Hello, sir.
Lose something, son?
No, sir. Achoo!
Oh, you must be Rudolph.
How'd you guess?
You look mighty cold, son. So I understand you want to be a flyer like your papa.
You wouldn't want me on your team, sir. Not with this nose.
Last year, I talked about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Rankin Bass version. So, let's talk about the other Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie. And coincidence is also called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie. This one, instead of being stop motion, this one is traditionally animated. And it was made by this company named Golden Films. I'm not kind of like the correct person to talk about this company. If you want to know a little bit more about that company, I suggest you to watch this internet guy named Phalas, who he gave a great effort on reviewing a lot of those Golden Film specials / movies and whatever you want to call it, and gave it some kind of monotone, humorous touch here and there. He even covered that movie. But now it's my turn, because honestly, this is one of those movies in which I thought that I was gonna like it so much that I even bought the DVD. And the more I began to watch this movie, unfortunately, this is one of those in which it gets worse and worse every time I see it. Although there are some things that I do keep it, how can I say, give it on high regard. Because you can tell that there was some kind of ambition into it. But the ambition wasn't enough when your execution doesn't work, as well as when you can tell that also this is one of those people in which they underestimate the audience. This is one of those saying that, oh well, let's make it for children. What children like? Children children, they all goes with, they like noises, they like wah wah song, they like songs, they like cringy songs, they don't care about kind of like the plot. It's everything, let's talk about the power of friendship. Let's talk about the power of magic and all these things. So let's say that they had an idea, but unfortunately they underestimated the audience. So basically, of course, it is the typical tale of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But unlike the Rankin Bass version, this time they wanted to take kind of like a different approach. Like, for example, instead of being... what was it? Hold on a second. Give me a moment. This time, instead of... I think it was... I think the Rudolph from the Rankin Bass version, he was Donner's son. In this version, Rudolph is Blitzen's son, and he wasn't especially mistreated in this version as the other one, because the other one, the parents actually, they kind of pander, they just kind of, instead of saying that to Rudolph, you're ashamed to the family because you have a red nose. And this one is like, well, I love my son, but okay, Holder does. They wanted to give other differences. For example, we got Santa Claus, who is actually much more nicer than the Rankin Bass version, and also he's voiced by John Goodman. Instead of the girlfriend named Clarice, his voice, he had a girlfriend named Zoe, which is okay, fine. They wanted to give a villain this time, instead of this kind of like this giant Jenny, like in the Rankin Bass version, is this Snow Witch named Stormella, voiced by Whoopi Goldberg. In which he has kind of like this grudge against Santa Claus. Unfortunately, there's no Hermie, the dentist elf. There's no a lot of the elements from the Rankin Bass are totally missing. they have kind of like this big celebrities in it, and while they do their okay job, it kind of doesn't help. You know, the kind of like the really cheesy, cringy, misguided pacing of the movie. There's some moments in which they kind of want to force out some jokes, some eye-catching moments in it for, you know, it's just kind of like they want it to be so much eye candy to entertain your children instead of, you know, polishing the story here and there. Yeah, it also have Eric Idle and Bob Newhart, now that I remember, and young adult Rudolph. It has Kathleen Barr voicing it. What else okay, I think I had enough complaining about this movie. When I did say that there are some things that I do acknowledge with this film. First of all, again, I do acknowledge that they wanted to try to make a kind of like a big Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story, kind of like, and the 2D animation, honestly, besides some hiccups here and there, is not badly animated, I'll say. Honestly, I do love the character designs of the characters. I love how the reindeers look, I love how Santa looks, and all these things. Some of the songs are okay. There's a few jokes with Eric Idle that it works from here to there. Honestly, they tried. I'm not gonna be too harsh on this movie because at least you can tell that they tried. It was just misguided. And they really needed some kind of Rudolph into their production in order to guide them on how to make not just an entertaining film for younger audiences, but also something that is less cringy for adult audiences. So honestly, I'll give you this kind of like a recommendation out of curiosity's sake. Still, that kind of proves that the Rankin Bass version came out as superior.
All right, Shorty. This your sled here? And what's it doing sitting out here in the middle of the sidewalk where somebody could trip over it? A person could get hurt that way, you know. Oh! Let that be a lesson to you. Move it along now. You hear?
Time for Hidden Gems, and that is none other than Ziggy's Gift. I never knew that one existed until a few years ago that I saw it on this internet show called Familiar Faces. Now it's time for a hidden gem, and that is none other than Ziggy's Gift. I finally saw it this year after, let's say that it kind of... And now it's time for a hidden gem. This special is slipped out of my radar many times in my life. I knew about its existence ever since I saw this special made by this internet reviewer called... it made a show called Familiar Faces. And, well, and then I was kind of tempted to watch it, but there was something that it didn't attract me so much. Maybe it's because it is based on a comic that I almost never read, but I do remember that this Ziggy character, he always show up on almost every single Christmas card or birthday card or Valentine's Day card during my childhood. It was almost everywhere on those cards. So much that I thought that, man, this is gonna be too sappy. And I was surprised that this Christmas special, and probably the only special concerning this cartoon, this one was directed by none other than the late Richard Williams. And if you know me, as a guy who loves animation, I do have high respects to Richard Williams in one way or another. And now that I finally saw this, boy, what was I missing? This special was brilliant, really heartwarming. It centers around this. Centered around this little guy named Ziggy. He doesn't talk. He has his dog pal and everything, and he decides to take a job on playing Santa Claus. Of course, that little that he knows is that he has to work under this shady corporation in which it's kind of like just con artists, and that they just make him dress up like Santa Claus, and instead of giving the money to charity, they're gonna want to keep it to themselves. And Ziggy is, of course, 100% oblivious out of it. But when he goes to his doing his stuff, you mostly see him just doing good deeds, doing good stuff out of his heart, and of course being a little bit oblivious of the cynical nature that is happening around him. Like, for example, there are some cops that they kind of believe that he is part of that con artist group. There is this thief who kind of looks like the villain from the Dover Boys. He just trying to steal. He just trying to steal from him, kind of like the money that he's getting from charity. And well, the movie actually wins me over. Mostly all the good things that Ziggy is doing. That despite all the things that are happening surrounding him, he just stays honest, a little bit oblivious, but really honest, really kind, and it's heartwarming. So much to the point that he even sacrifices some of the charity money to free some turkeys from being slaughtered. And also it's really heartwarming to see him, of course, that he shares his scarf to a stray cat, in which the cat, of course, begins to accompany him. And he's also very kind to a homeless man. And of course, this all leads to a really, really touching finale. And the finale is really well earned and really heartwarming. And man, that is one of the rare occasions that I've seen as Christmas special that it wasn't cynical. It wasn't mean-spirited. And I'm glad that I've seen it. So much that I think it's going to become one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time. Maybe one of my top 10. Boy, what was I missing? And it also really helps that since it is Richard Williams, it is amazingly animated. And you know that Richard Williams had this tendency that he always liked to animate fluid movements in ones instead of two frames. And it shows. It really shows. So anyway, I wish I don't overhype this one, but this one, it feels so hidden that it kind of deserves its attention. So I'll say this: give yourself a favor and watch Ziggy's Gift if you get the chance. This is a great gift that you deserve for yourself.
It's about that time of the year again. Sleigh bells ring, that season is here again.
Hearts are light and full of good cheer again.
Coming up Christmas time. Holidays, friends, we're all on the go again.
You better bundle up, it's starting to snow again.
See you wonder, that mistletoe again. Coming up Christmas time. It's time to buy those Christmas gifts. The wine to shop is free.
To make sure I get what I want, I buy my gifts for me.
It's about that time for after the rain again. May rain carols we all want to sing again. All the joy that each season will bring again. Coming up Christmas time. It's about that time for after the rain again. May rain carols we all want to sing again.
All the joy the season will bring again.
Coming up Christmas time. Jingle, jingle, jingle bells, jingle, hearts are light. Here comes the spring. Coming up Christmas time.
Now here's my Hanna-Barbera pick, in which the reason I decided to go with Casper's First Christmas is that, well, two reasons. First off, this year we had kind of like a little bit of the return of the classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons, thanks to C.H. Greenblatt with the show Jellystone. And trust me, guys, I know that many people are kind of a little bit taken down by the character designs and a little bit of the humor, but trust me, that show was actually really good. I actually really like Jellystone. And the second reason that I picked this one is that it's actually also part of my memories, because I had this special on a VHS, and I remember that I watched it constantly. And so that one, it kind of became one of those Christmas specials that it got stuck on my head for many years. And because of the Jellystones theme, I decided to revisit it. And honestly, I will say that there are some things that they hold up and some things that it don't. I honestly think that is kind of a little bit of a mixed feelings. Okay, so like any Hanna-Barbera cartoon, it's mostly, they're mostly kind of like lots of crossovers between different characters, and it also they stand alone as kind of like in their own universe. In this case, of course, we got the Hanna-Barbera version of Casper, in which it is also based on its own cartoons that, honestly, I wasn't much of a fan of Casper, I'll say. In this case, of course, Casper, he lives in this house that is gonna be evicted, torn down. He lives with his friend Harry Scary, which is an original Hanna-Barbera character created for the show in which Casper was introduced for the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which is none other than Casper and the Angels. But basically, Casper is really hopeful for Christmas. He even writes a letter to Santa Claus, and while he and Harry Scary go out, they go out of the house to, find a way to not have the house evicted. The abandoned house, of course, gets a little visit from some Hanna-Barbera characters, which of course are Yogi Bear, Boo Boo Bear, Augie Doogie, or the Doogie Dagdy. I always stumble with these ones. Quick Draw McGraw, Snagglepuss, and Huckleberry Hound. They were just in their Jeep trying to look somewhere they can celebrate their Christmas, and they pick up this abandoned house and they decorate it. And of course, Casper wants to be part of it. He joins in, but of course, Harry Scary he wants none of it. So he tries his best to scare these characters out of the house. Here are some of the things that they do hold up. First of all, the Hanna-Barbera characters. If you grow up with Hanna-Barbera character, you're gonna love the style of lowbrow humor. It's mostly kind of like exposition and just saying puns here and there. And they're still as lovable as there is. I did grow up with Yogi Bear and all these things, and it's kind of like it is a nice story, I'll say. It's a little bit kind of like magical, but if you grow up with those Hanna-Barbera campy cartoons, you're gonna grow fond of it. Also, Harry Scary, he was actually a really fun character. He's basically kind of like the MVP of this special, and his lines, his delivery, and honestly, I kind of prefer Harry Scary even more than the Ghostly Trio that is a regular basic of the Casper cartoons. Because the Ghostly Trio, they're always kind of like these mean-spirited uncles of Casper. This guy is kind of like if you blend them together, but actually gave them a little bit more of a conscience. He's more friendlier to Casper, but he's also kind of like a little bit strict because he embraces his ghostly persona. He knows that he is a ghost, but of course you can tell that he also has his moments of conscience. And of course, I'll say of the things that doesn't hold up, especially mostly on this special as well as the other cartoon. And that is Casper himself. Casper, that is not exactly the best version of Casper you could ever have. Because yeah, we know that the biggest thing about Casper is that he's just a ghost that wants to make friends. But unfortunately, of course, when you make friends with ghosts, everyone thinks that they're gonna die in 7 days. But unfortunately, the version of this Casper in this, as well as in the Casper and the Angel series, he comes as really whiny and really annoying. He's always had this voice that they wanted to make him charming, but every time he's like, "Can I do this? Huh? So, still, yeah, I know that they have nice intentions with Casper, but unfortunately, he doesn't hold up, and I'm glad that then they decided that, well, Casper it doesn't even feel like a main character in this one, even though it is about Casper's first Christmas. I also question a little bit the term first Christmas because Casper actually knows about Christmas, so that means that he kind of knows about Christmas in this. Before or something like that. It should have been more like Harry Scary's first Christmas or something like that. But either way, I'll say that it was just a fun memory that I had with the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So I think that at this point, I think that I can revisit some other Hanna-Barbera Christmas specials.
7 o'clock, Psycho sees Santa's workshop, and only Lee Majors can stop them. In the night the reindeer died. Be here.
You can't show that commercial. That thing looked like the Manson family Christmas special.
Think I'm way off base?
Yes, you're a tad off base, sir.
Frank Cross is more than the youngest network president in television history.
Call security, have them change his locks, and toss him out of the building.
Oh, he's fired? It's Christmas.
Thank you. Call accounting. Stop his bonus. Oh, watch out.
Ah!
He's a thoughtful boss.
Thanks, boys. Get the nurse.
A generous brother.
What did he give you last year?
I don't remember. A shower curtain. Ma'am, I think you dropped something here.
And a true humanitarian.
I can't get the antlers glued onto this little guy. We've tried crazy glue.
Have you tried Staples?
But his life is about to change.
Woo-wee! That was a good one. You are going to be visited by 3 ghosts tomorrow at noon.
God, tomorrow's bad for me, Lou. As a matter of fact, the whole rest of the week is a washout. Ow.
Anyone who thinks he hates Christmas is wrong.
Go back to Jersey, you moron!
It's ghosts he hates.
I love that bit!
I'm the ghost of Christmas present.
See Bill Murray get Scrooged.
Okay, it's time for the annual Christmas Carol. And what do I got this year? I already talked about the Muppets Christmas Carol. I already talked about Jim Carrey's Christmas Carol. I already talked also about the Alistair Sims Christmas Carol. So, what do I have this year? I decided to go with something different. And that is none other than Richard Donner's Scrooged. Well, it's still a Christmas Carol story, but this one is a little bit different compared to the other ones. because, for one, it's technically a modern takeoff to the story. Not only set in modern times, but also set on a dark humorous comedy genre. So, honestly, that sounds really ambitious for a story that has been told many times. And boy, that they prove it with this one. So much that this one, it has now kind of like a big cult following, despite his ups and downs when in its productions and its critical reception here and there. This is one that is gonna take your time for you to kind of warm up to it, as I did. At first, I wasn't too keen into the movie until I finally watched it, and it paid off. It paid off, I'll say. So basically, it's the typical story of the Christmas Carol. The usual things. Old man who is not into the Christmas spirit. He's stingy, he's greedy, he doesn't have the spirit, then he gets visited by ghosts that teach him his lesson, and of course then he becomes a changed man. That's technically just the few seconds version of the Christmas Carol, and it's in every single adaptation that you know. In this case, what do we got? We got this man named Frank Cross. He's played by the great comedian Bill Murray. He plays this this television network president who he's really sadistic. He doesn't care about the welfare of the people, his employees, so much that he even fires Bobcat Goldthwait. And he just basically is a really sadistic, sarcastic, cold-hearted asshole. That's the best way you can describe this guy. Although I think that he's mostly Ebenezer Scrooge times 10. So basically he wants to create this big, elaborate, and expensive live show that is going to be aired on Christmas. And he forces his employees to work on it during Christmas Day. And he's really ambitious to it, but also, again, being mean-spirited to it. He doesn't regard for their safety. He doesn't regard that's gonna shock other people, to the point that he even made a commercial that let's say that the commercial is a little bit too mean-spirited for the sake of describing it. Until, of course, just like Christmas Carol fashion, he gets visited by ghosts. In this case, he's visited at first by the ghost of the previous president of the television network, that warns him that if he doesn't change, he's gonna suffer in hell and all these things. And then, of course, we got the Christmas Carol edition, the Christmas Carol Bill Murray edition. There's not much I have to say in this case except for the few differences. For example, first of all, it's the modern times, of course. And another thing is that the setting, it doesn't take place during just one night like the original story. This one actually takes place during the course of the whole day, which kind of also gives a little bit of a fresh pacing in it, in which we don't get the ghost, at once with those three, then one and then the other one next and the other one next. No, this time, for example, one ghost visits, then we see our protagonist, still being, the sadistic asshole, but still you can tell that some of the lessons it gets rubbed into his mind. And then, of course, then the ghost show up later, and then continuing on until we get to the ending. Those are some of the few differences that I can tell about this one. Now I'll go with the pros of this movie. The first pro is that Bill Murray was excellent in this movie. You can tell that he gave it all in this one. Probably his best performance. And I think that this is what I think that his playing Frank Cross was better than him playing Peter Venkman. I know, this is debatable. But he did great, and the other actors also did great. It had kind of like this whole cast that of characters, both colorful or cynical. Well, it is a dark comedy, so you're gonna get this kind of style of humor. I think probably one of my favorites is, of course, Bobcat Goldthwait, who he plays the employee that got fired because he had an opinion, and then every time he shows up, he degrades into insanity. You'll see him becoming crazier and crazier and crazier until he ends up wielding a shotgun, and probably one of the wildest takes on Bobcat Goldthwait I have seen. The ghosts are also really good. They did indeed modernize it really well, and the effects that they done with them are actually really good. I'll say that. I like how the ghosts look and how modern they look from this case. Except for at least one moment in which the green screen is really obvious. But okay, you can't be perfect. I always forget the name of the people who play the ghosts. There's Robert Hammond playing the Ghost of Christmas Future. David Johansen, who played the Ghost of Christmas Past. I like this guy because he was kind of like playing this taxi driver. And there's Carol Kane, that I know that she had a little bit, how can I say, of issues back behind the scenes. But it's kind of weird that, because you can tell that she was kind of having some kind of fun into her role as the Ghost of Christmas Present. Eventually, I like that every time that in her role, she wastes no chance to punch or beat Bill Murray every single chance, and it's kind of delightful, I'll say. And honestly, you feel it. You feel that pain so much that there's this moment in which she actually pulls his lower lip like this. And fun fact, she pulled Bill Murray's lip so hard that so much that they had to take some time off and some days off for Bill Murray to recover from that pain. And he really took it like a champ. I'm gonna admit that. But honestly, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this adaptation of The Christmas Carol. Although many people say that it's one of the greatest, and I agree with that. But like always, I have to play devil's advocate and try to not overhype this film, because there are some things that I have to say against it. And besides, of course, the obvious moment of green screen, and that is that. Well, I feel like the segment of the Ghost of Christmas Future, it went a little bit too brief, and it didn't feel, too impactful. And of course, we got the ending part, in which it kind of drags on a little bit too much, because it kind of feels like it all goes ad-lib. But it went a little bit too extended. I thought it gets the job done. So I'm not gonna be too harsh on that thing. But either way, for a Christmas Carol adaptation, it is a little bit refreshing that it changes a little bit its pacing, as well as its setting, its characters. It has the same beats, but not as it feels familiar, but at the same time different. That's the best way I can describe Richard Donner's Scrooged. So as a Christmas Carol adaptation, I can happily say that it is indeed one of the best adaptations there is, and rightfully so.
When
magic of Christmas is a child making a wish and it coming true.
Thank you. Is Christmas real? When is it? It's real. It's less than a week away.
There haven't been presents in any stockings for years now.
Why hasn't Father Christmas been seen in years? Well, maybe it's because we don't believe. We need to believe that he'll come. Make a wish in your heart for him to answer.
There is not going to be a Christmas, child. There's a darkness in the north. Father Christmas is dying. Follow the compass. Find the magic. Save Christmas.
I can't do that. I can't do it by myself.
So when do we leave?
You're all crazy.
We're going to find the lost magic. We're going to save Christmas.
This is a bad idea.
What are we waiting for?
Do you know where the magic is? I was going to ask you the same thing. So what does your stone do? How's it going to help bring the magic back? Eden is hurt. She's an orphan, like us now. If we don't help her, no one will. Maybe she can help us. Follow us! Wow!
We're going north. Catch up with us when you can.
I thought you didn't believe in Christmas.
What Christmas? There is no Christmas anymore.
So what'll it be? Save yourself or save Christmas?
You have to believe. There's still a chance.
Dragon. Oh my god. How do I get into this? Well, I made my donation to Mystery Science Theater 3000 for their campaign to make their new season. Then Thanksgiving happened, and they announced the titles for their next season, and their Christmas special is gonna be about the Christmas dragon. I saw their trailer, their teaser trailer, and I was curious because it looks so baffling. And me as a fan of dragons, I thought that I had to go heads up and watch it. I saw it. I even recorded myself for posterity about my reaction. And boy, that was hilarious. That movie was hilarious. It was awful, but it was hilarious. It's not bad in the style of the killer piñata or the killer raccoons, Dark Christmas or something like that. That one, because those ones, they're kind of like lowbrow humors. But this one, let's say that it was, the best way I can describe this movie is that what will happen is people working on Hallmark movies, they decided to play Dungeons and Dragons. And for the sake of the holidays, they wanted to add a Christmas element. And my God, this movie, I had a lot of fun watching this film. So fun, but in the bad way. That is, it's hilarious because a lot of things of this movie fails in its total execution. First of all, we got this story. The story is that it centers around these group of children who they embark on a quest to find Father Christmas, which is the British. This is how they call Santa Claus in England. They want to find Father Christmas. I forgot to mention that it is set on this fantasy medieval setting. They want to find him because apparently the magic of Christmas is vanishing, to the point that the elves are turning into monsters. So they go on this quest, kind of like Lord of the Rings style, where they have their arguments, they have their, their adventures. Very typical adventure for, again, Lord of the Rings fantasy medieval style. And all this just to save the magic of Christmas. Oh yeah, and there's a dragon there. The dragon is technically secondary out of it. And, oh God. It's hard for me to talk about this movie because there's a lot of elements to tell you that it fails. One, the story fails because how can I say, a lot of plot points and elements appears out of nowhere. They kind of begin to ad-lib every single time. For example, they have kind of like this focus, but then they kind of take a detour because they just want something related, and they just somehow they want to make it fit into the movie. I mean, for something that goes on a quest to save Christmas, imagine that they just take detours, for example, to get this guy who is technically the Aragorn of the movie. Then it takes a detour to get this a crystal ball from an ogre. Then they take a detour to get these how can I say, to rescue a dragon from let's say hunters. Then it takes a detour here and there, and a lot of things, they just kind of doesn't add up, and all of this explanation is all about exposition. Another thing that fails, the acting. Every single actor, the acting is abysmal. Especially the main character, who she acts so whimsical and so wooden that she's kind of like it's mostly kind of like a teenager trying to act like an 8-year-old. Like, for example, we're gonna save Christmas. And by the way, this character is totally useless. For a protagonist, this character is really, really useless. It doesn't help that also she's accompanied by some children, in which two of the kids, they have these modern hairstyle that doesn't fit the time period. But the biggest award for probably the best actress, but in the sense that this is an actress that she does it so bad it's hilarious, is the one that is technically kind of like the villain. This woman who is kind of like the villain, she kind of plays kind of this Sheriff of Nottingham character, who every time she's there, you can tell that she has this smug on her face, like this, like she's enjoying it. And the way she talks, like for example, some of her lines are like, for example, well, 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 or taxes. Oh dear. What else there is? The cinematography, it's also bad because while they try to make it high budgeted, sometimes their good looks goes against it because the grass is so bright, and sometimes you can't tell if this is kind of like green screen. To the point that even the dragon looks awful. It looks like it's an awful CGI dragon. And I swear, I don't know if it was the copy that I got for renting, but there are moments in which there's so much into the screen that the film drops its frame rates. And even the whole story is corny as hell. It is so hallmarky corny, so it's kind of like too overly sweet. It's so overly hallmarky that it's just baffling. This was an insane movie that I tell you. Not insane like the Killer Piñata or the Killer Raccoons, but this is something that you have to watch it and make fun of it, because this is a movie that fails a lot on their good intention of making this safe, hallmarky, family-friendly film. Making you prove that sometimes when you have the intentions of making family-friendly, it can backfire if you don't make it right. So you deserve this. You deserve this crazy dragon tale. You deserve this Christmas dragon. Oh my God! Totally, that was hilarious.
The prophecy has come to pass that there would come to us a chosen one, and that he himself would be an artisan and a skilled maker of toys. From this day on, now and forever, he will bring our gifts to all the children in all the world. This is your legacy and your gift, as is the gift of fright.
It's them!
Every year, the magic happens again.
Merry Christmas! It certainly should be.
Until now.
What are you?
I'm an elf.
An elf?
Yes.
You mean like a fairy?
I mean, I'm talking modern methods of production here. I'm talking assembly line. I'm talking way for the future.
Now someone wants to take the magic out of Christmas.
We say, bigger, better. It's going to cost you.
Cost? Cost who?
The people who buy the toy.
Well, nothing. We're going to give them away free.
For free?
Well, that's how we do it at the North Pole.
Well, that's not how we do it here.
Only one man can help us, and he's coming to take you for a sleigh ride in the stars. Alexander Salkind presents Dudley Moore and John Lithgow. The legend comes to life for the very first time. With all the magic, all the adventure, all the wonder. Santa Claus, the movie. Seeing is believing. An Alexander and Ilya Salkind production.
From the great mind that brought you the great superhero movie, Supergirl. Okay, that didn't sound good. But trust me on this one. Trust me on this one. Santa Claus, the movie, I do have kind of like a soft spot for this one, and believe it or not. Because here's a curious story from my childhood. This one is one of those regular movies that they air in Latin America, at least as far from what I can remember. But years ago, when I was a child, I saw this movie. I didn't know where it was going. It was just the only thing that I knew is that there was Santa Claus or something like that. But there was some kind of image during the ending of this movie that it got stuck on my head for years. And by the way, for the sake of not spoiling too much of the movie, I'm not gonna dare you what image it is. But I will say that it's the ending image. The ending of this film, it got stuck on my head. That that years later, I didn't even know what movie was. I was like, what was that movie? Until, again, years later, I saw this movie when they aired it on Cartoon Network Latin America. And the scene happened, and I was like, oh, so that's where it came from. And as for the movie itself, I rewatched it this year, and guess what? It's not as bad as many people claim to say. I know that it had a little bit of a negative impact during that time period, but nowadays this movie is having a little cult following. Actually, it has more of a cult following in England, in the United Kingdom, and I can see why. Here's the thing. First of all, we got the kind of like the premise, which is basically kind of like an origin story of the Santa Claus story, which there are various, of course, and in this case, for the sake of giving some fantasy element, this one is centered around this old man who and his wife, and their two reindeer who apparently you know what? I'm going dark on this one. Apparently they die in a snowstorm and they're picked by elves who turn them into immortals. So they turn into gods, and the elves, well, they chose Santa Claus because of his good heart and his joy of giving toys to children. So he becomes the Santa Claus. And believe it or not, that's only the first half of the movie. Because the second half, they kind of decided to go a little bit on the Superman route by introducing kind of like a villain in this case. Like now then it centers around this elf named Patch, who because he made a blunder on making a machine that builds toys. He runs away from the North Pole, and then he joins this other guy named BC, who is this really greedy toy maker CEO guy, who of course he joins up with this elf named Patch, and they, let's say that he just wants to take over Christmas by selling lollipops that makes children fly, and he just wants to take over Christmas, and because money, and that's it. That's the best way I can describe it, the whole premise of the movie. And, well, let's go with the pros that is this movie. First of all, this movie is really ambitious. The whole scenery, the setting, the cinematography is amazing. The props are great. There is a feeling of Christmas in it. And I love it. I must say that I really love how it looks. And mind you that it's really charming, the whole thing. Even when in the scenes where in New York, that some of this part kind of holds up, but I really love more when they go with the Christmas and the snowy scenery. Also, the guy who plays Santa Claus, David Huddleston, he was a great Santa Claus. I gotta admit that he does a great Santa Claus. And honestly, the first half, I wouldn't mind if the whole movie is about, Santa Claus and his origin and all these things. But then I gotta go a little bit with the nitpicky, and that is the second half one of the biggest problems that I do have is none other than Dudley Moore. Dudley Moore as the elf that ran away, Patch. It's not that he was a bad actor. The problem that I have with him and his character is that he comes up at that he steals the movie, and when he steals the movie, it becomes a little bit more about him more than Santa Claus for a movie that is about Santa Claus. I wanted them for the movie should have been about Santa Claus and of course that Santa Claus had get his problems in here and there, but the main conflict of the movie is because of him. And this guy, despite his oblivious things and all the things that he later do, he comes off as kind of like the secondary villain of the movie. Even though we got the main villain, who is this again, the CEO, this toy maker guy named BC. And as much as I want to give negative of this guy, I will say that the second half, this guy makes it up. He's played by, of course, John Lithgow. And he is delightfully evil, let's say. He is unscrupulous. Not only in both the way what he does, like for example, he sells toys that is made with of nails or something like that. That's something that he deservedly sold to be, you know, arrested or something like that. But the way he chews the cigar like this, and the way he acts is amazing. And the way he overacts a lot of times is funny. And that's me saying from the guy who actually plays Lord Farquaad in Shrek in the future. Probably my favorite line of this guy is when he talked with Patch, and when this Patch guy just say that, oh, you're gonna give children toys for free. The expression of this guy is amazing. He goes, for free? That is great. That is a great moment that should have been a meme. Probably it is. Okay, I'm going a little bit too long when because honestly, despite anything, oh yeah, I forgot, maybe make it quick. There's also some children, and I like the children. The children make good acting, and I like the children protagonists and the acting with these children. And of course, I think that I could have done something else with the ending, but nothing much else. But either way, despite my complaints about Dudley Moore and the second half, that it doesn't feel that it kind of detracts itself from becoming a Santa Claus movie, it's still charming. It's still charming. You can see the ambition that it goes through. You can tell, and looking at the filmography of this director, I think this is probably his best work, considering that one of his works is none other than Supergirl. But trust me on this one, you deserve to watch Santa Claus the movie, at least for curiosity's sake or for charm's sake. For me, it is a little bit of an underrated film.
この子は神様がくださったクリスマスプレゼント。私たちの子供よ。
だいたいこんなとこで赤ん坊の泣き声してる方が変じゃ。
だからって俺たちに何ができるんだ。親を探すわ。探すったって。つまり俺たちはてめえの面倒一つ見られないろくでなしの仲良し3人組だ。十分やったじゃねえか。アクション映画の主役じゃねえ。
僕たち年末の大掃除に来ました。
ちょっと小さいかな。
クリスマスの奇跡だね。
And to end this Christmas special, I do what I always do every single time, in which I do my best to leave the best of them all from all my picks. And boy, the one that I decided to go through is none other than Tokyo Godfathers, which, curious enough, is not exactly a Christmas movie. It takes place during Christmas and New Year. Almost a little bit like Die Hard is not technically a Christmas movie, but people just think it is they consider it a Christmas movie because it is set on Christmas and it feels like it. This one is the same. Tokyo Godfathers was directed by Satoshi Kon, who you know him better for Perfect Blue and Paranoia Agent, in which, let me tell you that, on the get-go, that you haven't seen Tokyo Godfathers, you're missing out. Because this movie is something else. It's actually really pretty good. It's a story about 3 homeless strangers who they don't know each other. They have different backgrounds. They just kind of like coexist between themselves until one Christmas night, while scavenging through the trash, they find an abandoned baby. So they are surprised with that finding. They don't even know what to do until they decided that they're gonna find the whereabouts of this baby's mother to find some answers about why this baby was abandoned in the trash like it is nothing. Little that they know is that their journey is gonna be filled with lots of coincidence and miraculous coincidence to I might add. And wow, yeah, that movie is really good. The first time I saw it, I really love it. I still consider it that it's also one of Satoshi Kon's best, considering that I also saw Paranoia Agent and I really liked that anime. And you can, and you know the approach of this director, that he goes a little bit too much into the psychological with some semblance of weird fantasy, and sometimes creepy when in the case of Perfect Blue. It was one of the most interesting Japanese directors there was. And Tokyo Godfathers is no different, except that this one they decided to make a little bit kind of like this comedy that is kind of a little bit grounded on the themes of the struggles of the homeless, but at the same time it adds a little bit of a touch of fantastical elements with some symbolisms and some themes here and there in order to enrich the story. In which, in this case, it's just kind of like a quirky comedy about three homeless that finds a baby, and well, once they find this baby, miracles happen, which it both leads on the benefit of the baby. It also leads to the benefit of the whereabouts of the parents that they're looking for, and of course it also helps out to ease up the inner demons that each of our protagonists has, ranging from the drunk gambling addict who became a homeless for that same reason, in which he has kind of like this shame to present himself to his only daughter that he technically ran away from. There's also the transsexual man who he lost her husband and run away from after an incident that kind of began to act violent from a heckler, let's say. And of course the young woman also who ran away from her parents' house because she had kind of like a nasty fight with her father. Both of them are technically runaways from their own personal demons, but then the baby came, and due to a long string of coincidence, events happens that leads them to find their own inner peace, and boy, that is both humorous, but at the same time really warm, really heartwarming, let's say. And it's kind of like a journey. You see all these people, struggling because they're homeless. They have, their problems. It's kind of it's both again grounded into its own the reality, but at the same time it has the its quirky Satoshi Kon style of humor that you might get used to it. So in a way, it's both hilarious and heartwarming. It's kind of hard to describe it, and And talking more about this movie it's not doing this one too much of a favor, because I technically just want you to see this movie and judge it for yourself. But I do guarantee you that you're gonna have a nice experience. And again, it's not exactly a Christmas movie, because it is technically set in Japan, Tokyo in this case, and it takes place during Christmas and New Year. And as you know, while Japan do celebrate Christmas, it's not exactly as important as most Americans and Europeans do acknowledge. Although they do kind of acknowledge, they do exchange gifts, they eat cake and all these things, but they still do have kind of like their own regular lives out of it. But either way, since there's a little bit some of those religious symbolisms and some themes of miracles and all these things that happen during the story, it can't help itself to feel Christmassy. And just that it's just the spirit, it does extend even too much until the end of the year. So overall, of course, you like the characters, you like the setting, you like their struggle, you sympathize with them. The animation is, of course, anime style, but really good. And by the way, I will say that there is a twist, but the twist, I'm not gonna describe it, because it kind of enriches the film. But other than that, I highly suggest Tokyo Godfathers. It is indeed a real treat, and probably a movie sent by God. Okay, and with that, this is my Christmas special of this year. Like always, I had fun watching all these movies. I've been heartwarmed, I've been angered, I've been puzzled, I've been laughing my ass off. But there, I just hope that we continue on with doing all these Christmas specials, because I'm just having some fun out of doing this. It's just a hobby. I enjoy it. And of course, despite failing on doing this, yeah, it's not exactly palatable, well done. But I did give my best, of course. So anyway, that was my Christmas special for this year. So I wish you good night, a great Merry Christmas, and I'll see you whenever, and I'll see you around, whenever. So what I'm gonna do with this? Cowabunga! Ah!